What's up, party people? BV here, and welcome to another episode of Retail Media Vibes, a Doing Business in Bentonville podcast. We are recording live in Rogers, Arkansas at Podcast Video Studio. If you would like to start your own podcast, please reach out to the fine folks here at Podcast Videos. They are absolutely amazing at helping you get your podcast off the ground and doing all the legwork so you can just focus on having a wonderful show. Today, my guest is Sarah Gillmer, and we're going to get to meet her in just a minute. But our main topics today is going to be the power of nostalgia marketing and is traditional media really dead? All right. We're going to have some fun and talk about quick hits. We got a few quick hit stories we're going to touch on, and then we're going to wrap things up with some campaigns we love. So with that out of the way, we are going to now meet Sarah. So, all right, well, welcome to the show, Sarah. It's good to have you.
It's great to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today. So, so those that don't know you are our listeners and viewers. Let's learn a little bit about Sarah and get to know you a bit.
Yeah. I think I like to think of myself a little bit as coaching human potential, right?
Okay.
Parent.
Yeah.
I am a certified Enneagram coach.
Okay.
And then I am a sales leader for a digital content company called Break Time.
Yep. Yeah, very familiar with Break Time.
Yeah.
It's cool. So, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would be like an alternative universe career for you?
It's a great question. I've actually thought a lot about that, and whether that's my age or stage of life. Perhaps we all go through times like that where you think about, like, what would I be doing if not this? If I were to go back to school, I think I would probably do something in the realm of counseling or psychology. What I really love to do is sitting with others and helping them learn more about who they are. Yeah. I think the greatest gift you can give yourself is knowing who you are, which as a result is a gift to a lot of other people, which is why I love the Enneagram.
Yeah. I mean, I like that, the Enneagram, quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of psychology, it sounds like, that you're, human psychology and behavior that you're very interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, if we were, so we're going to talk a little bit about retail and obviously we're going to talk about nostalgia and traditional media. So, around that space, like, what is a trend in retail or marketing that you really feel like is really exciting right now from your perspective?
Exciting is the interesting word, right?
Okay.
Because that can mean a lot of different things. So obviously the biggest trend right now, I think, in retail is AI. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do with AI and how to utilize it best. So from an excitement, that could be excitement in terms of anxiety. It could be excitement in terms of creativity and what you're going to do with it. I think we're all grappling with what is its relevancy in my line of work. And then from our own worlds of where we deal with brands and shoppers, how does that best communicate with shoppers and how do they feel about that? So no matter what you see on trend, whether that's nostalgia, which we'll talk about here later, or not, AI is the buzz,
right?
And on trend.
Well, we're going to talk about traditional media as well, right?
Yeah.
And so, these are, legacy media channels that have been around for years, right? Yeah. And so fast forward to today, AI is a whole new landscape and, technology that's going to be used in a lot of different ways in media and advertising. And, obviously the story there is still yet to be written as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. You brought up AI. I mean, it's on everybody's mind. That is not the topic that we're covering today, but that's probably an opportunity for a topic in the future. But yeah, I think AI is definitely on everybody's mind, and it is very exciting and interesting on where it could potentially go. All right. So first up, our first quick hit story this week is Instacart has been testing, air quotes, testing variable pricing. So there was a recent story that Instacart may be, we'll call it adjusting. All right. So we want to be kind here, right? Adjusting pricing and increasing prices to different shoppers. The test was done where several different shoppers shopping the same product at the same store. There were some price differences for each individual shopper. Instacart, was kind of the center of that. And, they said they were, testing this model out. So, same product, same store, different prices. I think there's a lot of perception around an activity such as this. Yeah. But just like, what's your gut reaction on something like this?
I think you can look at it a couple of different ways. My gut reaction as a consumer is I don't like it. It kind of infuriates me.
Right.
It goes down to like what is fair and reasonable. And that can be debated as well as what is fair and reasonable. If I take a step back, however, and look at it at the dynamic pricing, it is something that's happening all the time, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, especially like in e-commerce channels, right? You can adjust pricing all the time.
Yeah, e-commerce. Also, just look at it from like, where do you live in the country? States, taxes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so while it seems like offensive that you're going to do this to me, that's also the realization that it's happening already and we don't even know about. I think that is the kicker, though. I know about different states and different pricing. Right. This was unknown, right?
Right. It wasn't transparent.
It wasn't disclosed to the consumer.
Right.
And so that, of course, can drive that rage and irritation.
Yeah.
From that kind of.
And I think when a lot of these things, and they happen in this black box, right? And so like there's not that transparency to the consumer. All right, well, what is the cause of the price difference? What is the stimulus there? I remember back when Wendy's got a lot of pushback a while ago when they had like dynamic pricing. And so, costs of food would vary based upon time of day, right? And you can go into a supply and demand mentality, or Uber has surge pricing, right? When there's a high demand for Ubers, price goes up, less demand, price goes down. So we do live in this supply and demand capitalism, economy, and so you see these things happening. But I think transparency is important. I also think that things that are necessities should have a lot more stability than things that are elective.
I agree with that. I also think what's interesting about this is it also can train the shopper's behavior different than you anticipated it to be.
Right.
If I know Wendy's that you're going to charge me more during peak times and I want Wendy's,
right,
I'm going to go get it elsewhere.
Right.
And I think of it also think about airlines, right? We all know.
Sure. Yes.
Right. We got to clear the cache or, to go look for airline.
Sure.
So if Instacart's going to do this, well, can I log in under a different email address?
Right.
And look at it for a different price. So I think it's going to.
Well, they're gaming you. Now you're trying to game them, right? And so there is this, competitive relationship then, right, between the consumer and the retailer, right? So very interesting. I think you also, if you look at, the future in store where you have, digital shelf labels that obviously are connected, and is there that opportunity for dynamic pricing? What is the stimulus for that? So I think there's a lot more to be figured out in this future state of supply and demand and purchase economy and how prices get set. And so it's just interesting to really see a platform like Instacart do this, again, air quotes, test in order to see what the appetite it was, or what they could get away with, right? And and so it's an interesting one. All right, moving on to our next story. So Dateline Adweek, right? So Adweek had a story where Google is telling advertisers that it's planning to bring ads to their Gemini AI chat platform in the coming year, 2026. So these are all, I think, ads in AI, ads in chatbot, AI chatbots, et cetera, has always been something that's been discussed. But this is like the first time that somebody, whether intentional or not, is actually having a conversation about actually advertising in these channels. I mean, how surprised are you though that Google is already trying to make this happen?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
They have to make a profit. Buzz right now is we're in the AI bubble and it's going to burst, right? All the things that we use it for is for free. Now it's costing us something. It's costing our data and our privacy.
Yeah.
However, I don't pay every time I use Gemini. I don't pay. I mean, yes, your business could have a different model and subscription, but for the most part, everybody is using the free versions of those models.
Right.
So no, it doesn't surprise me. I think it'll be time will tell. I think it goes back to what is it going to look like?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was, my next question is like, how invasive are these ads going to be? Are they just going to be like sponsored listings that are interspersed? Like, put on your forward thinking hat. What do you think these ads could potentially look like?
I mean, if we're smart and we're using AI as it is, it's, to me, what would be brilliant is whatever I am asking it to do, somehow the advertisement is affiliated to it.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, of course. Yeah. Relevancy. Right.
If I'm going through and I'm like, hey, looking for some high level ideas for a strategy discussion around, I don't know, Pringles. Yeah. Right. Is it going to serve me an ad for Pringles that I can then go purchase at a retailer? Like, that would be smart, or is it going to, who knows? But to me, that if it's AI and it's advertising, I would hope it's dynamic and can think on its feet and serve it back that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that it advances advertising in a new way, and it's a new format. It's just not another sponsored listing or a sponsored card or something. Like, here's the sponsored result, and then here's what you really wanted at accompanying that. And so I'm hoping, and I don't have the vision of what it will be, but I'm really hoping it's more than what we currently see today, and is done in a much smarter way.
Something that's not going to force me to watch something, do something before you're going to give me the output, right? Yeah. Is, what is that initial frustration going to be for those who are using it? And then will people jump to different things that don't have that yet?
But I don't know if the average person who is using it more casually, has really bought in on the usage of this tool in a way that you start serving the ads, then all of a sudden I'm going to stick with you, and I'm going to find that as continue to stick it out. I think that's, going back a few years back to Instagram. Instagram was so adamant about not having ads, right? Because it really wanted to drive that stickiness and ensuring that, the users of that platform were engaging, they were taking a lot of pictures, they were sharing those pictures. Like, you get it to the point, like, there's got to be this curve, and you've got to reach that curve, and then you put in ads, and people are, oh, well, it's ads, but I'm still getting the value out of this platform in a way that gets me what I want. And so, I'll put up with some ads, right? So, not sure it's there yet, but I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out.
I would agree.
All right, so you were talking about chips earlier. You said Pringles, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about chips on this third story here, which is Lay's potato chips. We all know Lay's, probably have had a few in our lives, right? And so what's really fun and interesting to me, and of course, I'm a sneaker guy, so anytime I see a sneaker store,
not a surprising topic for you at all.
You combine a little CPG with some sneakers, and of course, it's going to get my attention, right? So Lay's is partnering up with Saucony to have their own chip-inspired collection. Now, unfortunately, this is only in China, so I guess they're trying to make some brand. They're doing some brand building in China. Lay's is with Saucony, and so there's a nice little collab there. There's 3 sneakers. They're going to be in the Chinese market. Pretty cool, pretty cool sneakers. I like the yellow ones the best, the ones that really mirror the Lay's potato chip aesthetic. So I like that quite a bit. But from your point of view, and I know you're a huge chip eater, right? You eat Pringles, right?
Listen, chips and salsa are my
right?
thing. Yes.
Okay, so in your mind, what chip should have have a collaboration with a sneaker brand?
Yes. I actually thought about this, and I think everybody's going to go the athletic shoe lane.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go
That's where I'm going to go.
If you're going to go that lane, I'm also like, what is the most relevant thing happening in 2026? It's the World Cup. So I'm thinking like, okay, is there a fun, loud brand that would make sense around the hype of the World Cup? And maybe you could even do it by like country team, all that kind of stuff. So like Takis.
Takis was like the first thing that came to my mind.
Takis,
Yeah.
pair it with like an Adidas, some kind of classic
Spicy shoe.
soccer shoe. Yeah.
Yeah.
To bring it home.
Yeah. I like it.
You could go that route. For me, I like a chip that's got some crunch. I need some density.
Okay. All right.
I like a kettle, a good old kettle chip.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I think about kettle brands, I think of like Cape Cod.
Yeah. Cape Cod.
And I was going to say, if we're going to go Cape Cod, what about a Cape Cod and a Sperry? Kind of have like that pretentious, like,
like the Docksider shoes.
Give me a boat shoe or a canvas shoe and a Cape Cod.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Yeah. I could see those two actually coming together.
It's classy. If I want a shoe, I want a classy shoe. A classy shoe, classic. If I'm going athletic shoe, I'm going Nike.
Right.
I want that classic, tried and true. So if I'm thinking about that for myself, I'm thinking more of like, why not do something that would be classic, more of a neutrality, goes with everything, can be on trend no matter what.
Yeah, Pringles did a Crocs collab, a while back as well. Yeah. So, that was fun too. So, yeah, it's always interesting to me when these, food brands, food and beverage brands partner up with a shoe, and does the collab, really work? Does it bring the ethos, to truly bring the ethos in to the shoe? There was a collaboration a while back with Kyrie Irving's shoe with Nike, with General Mills, and like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Kicks, and Lucky Charms. And so there were these cereal brands that like integrated, their ethos into the Kyrie Irving shoe. And then a couple of years ago, there was a Fruity Pebbles cereal with collaboration with a LeBron shoe as well. It was the Fruity Pebbles. So, and I think there was a couple different designs of that. So anyway, it's always interesting to see, how, these brands can integrate, within a collaboration like a sneaker or another product to kind of, I think in some cases, both brands can help themselves, help each other. Right. So you're bringing that relevancy of streetwear culture to the cereal, and then you have the strong branding of the cereal, elevate the shoe. And I think in a lot of cases, it's a great partnership, and if nothing else, it's fun, right? So
it's fun. It creates that once in a lifetime limited offer.
Yes. Yeah. Drives that urgency. Yeah. Great. All right. Cool. Well, that was quick hits. Now we're going to move on to our two main stories today. All right. So the first main story that we're going to talk about today is the power of nostalgia marketing. What I like about nostalgia is like you can stimulate nostalgia in a lot of different ways, visually, sensorially, through scent, through audio, through music. Like there's so many ways that nostalgia can come in. And, why I wanted to do this topic is, right now Stranger Things is going through their final season. And I think they do such a great job with nostalgia. Nostalgia can be one of those really emotional ways to tap into the consumer. And shopping, a lot of it is about psychology, right? You were talking about early on in your introduction, like you like the psychology of a lot of things and the emotional side of that. And, to me, having this conversation with you about, nostalgia, is like just fits so well. And when I think about some of the emotional connections that brands can have with consumers, and I think also about hype marketing, right?
Yeah.
Hype marketing is not like nostalgia marketing, because hype marketing is about like building excitement, building a lot of energy, and nostalgia is more of that feeling of familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, nostalgia works really well when you take something that was, from the past or gives you a nostalgic feeling, and you pull it forward and you reintroduce it, like as a parent, for example, for me, right? I grew up, Star Wars, right? Star Wars, right? And love Star Wars. And, when Star Wars, when they re-release new toys or a new movie, that brings that nostalgia to me. And then I want to share that with my kid.
Yes.
Then they get involved, right?
Yeah.
And so then that brand, in this case, Star Wars, has a new, cohort of people that they can market to in the future. And then they bring in nostalgia. So it's almost like it can like build upon it itself. Yeah. And so I think it's, really about just ensuring that like connecting in that emotional way of feelings and thoughts of the past in order to, get shoppers, consumers to look at your product in a certain light and get that familiarity as well. From your standpoint, like how does nostalgia marketing really, work for you, or how do you see that working in the space that we work in on a daily basis?
There's something so incredibly powerful about tradition and story. The amount of times that my kids will ask me a story about, tell me about when you were younger, that the nostalgia marketing plays into. And so when you talk about feeling, it is the feeling, right? It is whether that's, it's baking something that brings you back to that time frame, or using something. So I think it's a really powerful tool when it's used in the right way.
Right.
When it fits the brand or it fits the overall story really well, versus a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon that may not have a clear tie either to the entity that's pulling into nostalgia, which nostalgia is usually some kind of pop culture, right?
Yeah.
Something of that manner. And in some kind of medium of media.
Yeah. Yeah.
That brings you into it. And so if something or a brand can sink in with that and that aligns well with them, then it works.
Yeah. When I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking about, okay, who does it really well? I think Barbie does it the best.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because Barbie is obviously a legacy, a legacy toy, right?
Yeah.
Legacy brand, right? That's been around for years. And then there's always, that mom that introduces, Barbie to their child at some point. And then most recently, right, they had the Barbie movie, right? And so it exposed Barbie to a whole new, and then it like reinvigorates the excitement, the interest, the love, and because it is an emotional thing, the love for a particular brand. So I think Barbie does a really, really great job of that. From your standpoint, can you think of other brands that actually do a good job of that?
Well, when you said Barbie, what I immediately thought through that was or Hot Wheels. Only because even when you talk about Barbie and Hot Wheels, my parents kept those for my brother and I. So it's great to introduce, pull out Barbies that were mine and let my daughter play with them, or son, or, from that case.
Yeah, I did the same with Star Wars.
Yeah, from a Star Wars standpoint. In terms of other brands that do it really well, what comes to mind, although I'm trying to think of a specific example, I kind of go back to some of the cereal brands that capitalize on a lot of those things because they've been around for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, there's a certain legacy.
There's legacies with it. So But I was sitting here trying to think of, is that nostalgia or is that just branding, right?
But it can be both.
It can be both. So, right? When I think about like Wheaties, who's on the Wheaties box? How does that carry it through? That's something that's lasted a long time. Does it still have the same, from an athlete standpoint, do they really want to be on a Wheaties box now? I don't know. That carries the same weight as it did before.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something.
I mean, for me with nostalgia, again, I hate making this a sneaker podcast. It's not intended to be a sneaker podcast, but like Nike, they re-release sneakers from years past, right? Yeah. And so they call them retros, right? They retro a sneaker. They'll have a sneaker that released, back in 1988, and then they will redo it and release it in 2025, right? And so it gives you that opportunity to relive that magic of whether you had that sneaker in 1988 or not. You relive it again, relive it in 2025, and either you get it for the first time in 2025, or you get it again, because by the time that 1980, you probably don't have that pair of 1980. So there is that nostalgia component with retro as well.
Well, and if I think about brands who've tried to play into that a lot, I mean, Coca-Cola classically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Comes in, holiday time frame, they're always going to bring in the classic Coke with the classic Santa with that piece of it. But even as they introduce things like new Coke, right? Where they pull in the old with the new and try to reintroduce it back.
Well, yeah, and they had that in Stranger Things, right?
Yes,
so that
exactly.
Was, the season before. And
exactly. So that's a good play. And what's been in the news now too is McDonald's with their adult Happy Meal, right?
Yes.
You get the play on Happy Meals were a big deal. Like we didn't go out to eat a whole lot. So getting a Happy Meal with my orange high C and the toy,
a little bit of nostalgia there.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so having the play into it now, great on them.
Yeah.
To kind of bring it back.
Yeah. So when I was doing some research on, what are some strategies to ensure like a brand can participate in a nostalgic, type of marketing campaign, right? So a few of these are like knowing your audience's timeline, right? And so there are definitely going to be different properties and different nostalgic experiences based upon, somebody's, timeline, right? And so millennial versus Gen X versus Gen Z, et cetera, right? I like this one where you're blending the retro with modern, right? So it's kind of like, what we're talking about earlier, where you're introducing, this retro brand in a retro way, but you're doing it in a modern style. And then, so you're bringing people today into your brand. So it's a good combination. In anchoring in authentic shared experiences. So that was another one that was identified as well, where, it could be family traditions, because I also think that's a really important part, is the family dynamic. Like if it's a shared experience, like everybody is doing it together and they're sharing in that, those memories can last for when they get older, right? And then there's that opportunity to come back to it again. Right? Are there any of those things that stand out for you, like experiences like with your kids that, maybe related to a brand or product that could be, nostalgic in some way in the future?
Some of it goes back to, I think we talked a little bit about toys. Some of it goes back to like tried and true recipes for me. There were certain things, sometimes I think for recipes, I was always told there are certain ingredients that you buy the name brand. You do not go get the store bought brand. Like it's very important for the recipe. And as I've shared some of that, my daughter loves baking now too. And as we go shopping for those things, if we're going in store or online, and I remember her pointing out once about a chocolate chip or whatever, and she put something and I was like, no, we must have the Nestle Toll House.
Okay.
For this.
Yes.
For this recipe, we must have, because it makes a difference. Does it make a difference? Makes a difference in my heart. Makes a difference in the memory of whoever made it. So those are things that carry down the line in terms of.
So I think, your daughter goes to,
that's right.
Cookies in the future with her, her family. And so it's that is probably something that's going to stick with them.
That recipe. Yeah, for sure.
And then the last one was, stay true to your brand's identity, right? And I think sometimes like, oh, I've got this new brand and I want to play into nostalgia and I'm try to do this weird fit of nostalgic with a new brand. And I don't know if that works, right? You have to have, I feel like with nostalgia and branding and marketing, you have to kind of have a legacy in a way, right? It feels like that's an important
You have to have a legacy. I also think what's interesting is brands who try to it's a miss because they try to modernize without understanding their legacy and the nostalgia they carry. So like case in point this year was the Cracker Barrel logo.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
So like they got rid of Grandpa, right? They got rid of, and the outrage of the Cracker Barrel logo, like they missed, but what a miss to not think through like old-timey store, to not understand the nostalgia of what they carry within that piece of it.
Yeah. I mean, you go to Cracker Barrel and I'm just thinking about the little peg game.
Old candy.
Yeah.
That you would get in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. So yeah, I think, nostalgia is obviously a very powerful emotion. I think there are ways for brands to do it and do it well. And there's so many brands that do. I think new brands have to establish their identity and as they grow, and then maybe there's those opportunities. But I think leaning into nostalgia can definitely bring families together, bring stories together, and bring opportunities for nostalgic moments again in the future. So great. All right. That was awesome. So we're going to move on now to our next story. All right. So, for our next topic, we're going to talk about traditional media. Is traditional media dead? I always feel like in my world that I've worked in over time, the word traditional media has a bias to it. When you bring it up in a conversation, hey, let's put together a marketing plan. And a form of traditional media comes up. There's usually some sort of bias, or I don't want to say a visceral reaction but I do think it gets pushed aside pretty quickly. And just to be clear on when we're talking about traditional media, we're talking about print, radio, broadcast TV, and out of home.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the four. I think there's going to be a new wave of a different type of traditional media, but we'll get to that, and I'll get to that in the future. But I think you get the same ideas. All of these things are outdated in some way, and some of them have come along, right? Come along for the ride. Some of them have morphed into something a little bit different, like of course, like TV. From broadcast TV to more streaming and connected TV and podcasting with radio and. Like a lot of these kind of evolved into these new age, digital formats in some way. But there is something to be said for some of these mediums when done in a certain way, right? Under certain circumstances. Do you want to have a print ad in a magazine for every single campaign that you run moving forward? No, probably not. But in the right case, it might. Yeah. But it is funny though, like if you went to a modern marketer today and said you're going to do a print, you're going to do a print ad in a magazine, just as an example.
Yeah.
You'd probably not even get in front of the client because a leader would probably stop you and say, they'll get that off the plan immediately. Yeah. But, there could be some white space there that you're not tapping into. Right. And the whole idea of omnichannel is multi-channel, right?
Exactly.
Are there really the right times and places and situations where some of these forms of traditional media could exist and be smart? I've said in a previous podcast, sometimes I like to zig when people are zagging, right? So when there's so much push into digital, one form or another, can you go into one of these traditional media channels and make a splash because everybody else's attention is somewhere else, right? So, from your standpoint, where do you see the usage of traditional media and the value it can bring to a marketing plan?
Consumers are looking for some of these traditional options for that. And also the younger generation. So like my daughter, a couple years ago for Christmas, my sister gave her a subscription to a travel magazine because she loves to travel.
Awesome.
She still has those magazines. She still goes through when the subscription and flips through them because she's looking for things. Right. She looks for what to wear. Like every time I get a magazine, a clothing magazine, she's always like, don't throw that out. Because you can look through it and touch and feel like she's not seeing that.
Right.
Anywhere else. So I think that there is power in that. There's power in having something that you can, that's not just digital, but that's something that you can touch and feel and take with you and leave by your bed. Or going home. Every time I go to see my parents, they live in a small town in northern Arkansas. They still will get their Southern living and their better homes and gardens. It is the first thing I will go to the coffee table and be like, oh, yeah. I want to go read my Grumpy Gardener. I want to go look at those things. So there's, I think it goes back to like the nostalgia play too.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Also think about like other ways that you're going to meet your consumer that you wouldn't do it anywhere else. My kids look at billboards all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone sees billboards. So actually my favorite billboard example, and this is, most people will not be able to relate to this one unless they've been to South Dakota. So there is a drugstore in South Dakota called Wall. It's a town called Wall, and it's called Wall Drug. And, for hundreds of miles, there is billboard after billboard after billboard, and you're driving in the middle of nowhere. That is really literally your only form of entertainment other than what you have on your radio, right? It's looking at those billboards, free ice water, at Wall Drug, truckers get coffee, see the 50-foot rabbit at Wall Drug, like it, and then literally it's all of these billboards, right? And you obviously, that's a high level of frequency, a lot of messages.
Sure.
It does have an influence on considering whether you stop at Wall Drug. And that will, Wall Drug is there and has been there for absolutely forever. And so, I think it can have a role, right? It can have a role. I think with like local advertising for sure. I think some of these traditional mediums like local radio, local TV, however it comes through broadcast TV, I think, if you're an HVAC company in the Northwest Arkansas area, like, having a local TV spot is helpful. I think having a billboard in the area is helpful, right? Are you doing a national program? Probably not, right? So I think there's a certain level of localization, but I also think there's like some trust and credibility as well. Like, hey, my brand is on a billboard. My brand is on a TV. Like, and so there is a little bit of that. It obviously was much more back in the day than it is today, but I still think it has a little bit of that credibility. This year, prior to the holiday season, I received 2 toy catalogs from mass retailers. One was Amazon, which was totally e-commerce. Print catalog, had QR codes in it, but it was still a print catalog. I received one from Target. I didn't get the Walmart one, but there were some other people who had one. So even these retailers are still printing something, right? It's somewhat disruptive, and I get the Sam's Club ISB every month as well.
It's not the same though, because it also plays on nostalgia.
Okay.
Because
true.
We went back. I earmarked all those toy catalogs that we used to get.
Yeah, I used to circle in the Sears catalog. Yeah, for sure.
Somewhere where mom and dad might pick it up, see it, turn to it.
Yeah.
So there's it's that kind of power play as well, the nostalgia to it, and my kids look forward to it. And I don't. It might be one of them has like stickers, like. So like each child can get a set of stickers, and so you could put your sticker on it. It's a complete pull into that as well.
Yeah. So I think again, being at the right place with the right medium with a specific customer. I think when we were talking prior to the show, and we were talking about direct mail. If everybody else is online, maybe that is a space you can own for a moment, right?
Yes.
And So it is interesting. I think, my perspective here, and I get the measurement side of things for sure, but I think sometimes we lose the art of marketing if all we're chasing is a number.
I agree.
We got into the space because it's a creative space, right? Right. And we wanted to help brands build brands, help build products, right? The products that those brands sell in retail. And if we just continue to chase the click or chase the impression or chase the ROAS, we're going to lose the art of omni-channel marketing, because not all of that stuff is going to be able to be measured. Well, people are not going to believe that, right? So we get into this weird space of we've pushed marketing all the way down to this number versus the art of marketing. You want to find out whether or not media channel works, stop marketing. You'll find out really quick whether or not your marketing was doing anything, right? And so, but I get it, right? Because there is the dynamic of, you want to make sure that where you're investing your dollars is really driving your business, right? There's the old saying, 50% of my marketing budget is working. I just don't know where, how it's working, right? So I think there's a lot to be said when you start just chasing numbers, but obviously there's a requirement to do so because that's how things get funded. But don't lose out on some of these opportunities that can also be a complement to your overall strategy, just because traditional media, that's old news. I alluded to this earlier. I think there's going to be a new wave of what is considered traditional media, and that could be display banner ads. It could be email. It could be promotions, right? And so, as we get into new forms of, and we were talking about, Google and Gemini and advertising, within chatbots, those may become traditional. I think, you have to really consider the full opportunity.
Yeah. Everything goes back to how can we best tell the story that we want people to grasp with our brand. And you have to do that in a lot of different ways.
And and I get it. You have to make decisions, right? You don't have unlimited budget. You don't you can't do everything. I totally get it. So there are times where I think it makes sense, and there are times where it doesn't. If you're a brand and you're getting your product into a local market, and you're only at a few hundred stores, and you're really trying to drive volume within those markets, I think, some forms of traditional would work in those markets, instead of just trying, I just want to, run some banner ads and some social ads, in those markets. What are some other ways that you can continue to build attention and build your brand and build your product in those locations as well? So traditional is not dead.
No, it's not dead.
It's changed a bit. I think you can select when the best time to do it, but don't laugh someone out of the room because they brought a print ad to a discussion about a marketing mix for a specific objective. Those were our main stories. Now we're going to jump into campaigns we love. All right, we're going to wrap the show with campaigns we love. So Sarah and I are going to talk about campaigns or ads that we have seen out in the world and we are digging right now. And obviously part of this show was talking about nostalgia. And I understand, Sarah, you've got an amazing example in that realm.
I do. So we're coming off holiday. And so the one thing, the ad that just tugs on my own heartstring was Chevy's ad this year with the family. And it just shows all the memories that they've captured while driving their Suburban over the years. And it kind of shows the legacy of having, obviously a car that will last. But if you think about just driving and the amazing discussions that I've had in my own vehicle with friends and family, it captures all of that beautifully well. It does what I think is really brilliant marketing because it sells without overtly selling. There was no part of that ad that was like, go to your local Chevrolet dealership right now. And is truly about enjoy the memory of what this time brings. And that is like,
it's powerful brand building, using nostalgia. And I think, some of the things that we talked about earlier about, having the family involved there, right, brings that level of emotion and storytelling. I think sometimes, we don't do enough of the storytelling, to really kind of build that platform. And obviously, it seems like they told that story in a really compelling way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So my campaign I love is around a Dunkin' Munchkin. So I am a huge Dunkin' fan. Absolutely love. And so there is an ad right now around a Dunkin' Munchkin is a brand's unlikely festive holiday hero. And so it's narrated by Mindy Kaling. And what I also love about it is I love when brands do a 360 where they also include merchandise along with their storytelling. And so you can really buy into the full, into the full story. And so this is actually a children's book, right? And they've actually even made it into a spot. But it's really centered around a Dunkin' Munchkin, which is their donut hole, if those of you that don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a journey of belonging. So the character, our little powdered Munchkin, feels discarded and forgotten because all of his compadres that are inside the Munchkin box are getting selected by people. And he's the last one left. And then a child scoops in and grabs that last Munchkin, and it's the most special, best bite of all. So it's kind of, so here's how I feel about it.
Tell me how you feel, because I have feelings too, baby.
I have some feelings on this, but so I love Dunkin'. I love what they did. I love the children's book. I totally understand what they're trying to do with the story.
Yeah, but
it could go a little dark. Right. Yeah. So you've got all these personalities on each of these little Munchkins, right? They all have faces, and what do you do with the Munchkin? You're not putting it on your shelf.
You're eating it. You're killing it. You were killing the beautiful little cute Munchkin.
Right. So, so again, I have mixed feelings.
Yeah.
But I love what they were trying to do there. I've had a few Munchkins in my life, and I don't think I've left any at the bottom of the box. So obviously, some kid has now come along, and this lonely little Munchkin, where all his friends have been eaten, now has been consumed by this child, and everything is good again. So,
is it good?
Well,
is it good for him?
That is the emotion of the story. Yes. That is, but the
play on that was his purpose, and he needed to live into his purpose. I don't know.
Anyway, that's the one I brought to the table today. All right, let's wrap things up. Okay. So that is a wrap on this episode of Retail Media Vibes. I want to thank Sarah for coming in and sharing your thoughts and ideas with us today. Anything that you want to shout out or plug or anything before we wrap it up today?
I love connecting with others. Would love to connect with you all. Find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Gillmer. If you have any interest at all in anything with Enneagram, I'd love to speak with you about that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, if you've enjoyed the show, then, be sure to like it. If you're on, like it on YouTube, share it. Let a friend know about it. The more people we can get watching and listening, that would be great. And then if you have a question or feedback, you can shoot me over a note at retailmediavibes@gmail.com. So I want to thank you all for listening or watching. And as always, I will promise, I know you hate this one, but I promise I will do better next time. BV out.